welcome to another episode of Asexualise, my asexual life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality and all things asexual. So please subscribe and hit the bell icon right now. So today I've got a super special episode, and yes, it's Minkey, aka 5mart2n's 10-year anniversary of knowing they're asexual. And they are in this Asexual Perspectives book, which I originally published in 2017, but still sells to this day. And it was a bestseller on Amazon. So if you've got the printed copy of the book, make sure you go to page 405. So we are going to be looking at his story more in depth and diving in more about love, life, and sex from an asexual perspective. This is Minkey's own perspective, and his chapter is number 44 in the book. So, first of all, welcome, Minkey.
Hello, everyone. Minkey here.
Yay! First of all, what does it feel like to have a 10-year anniversary of knowing you're asexual?
Well, it does. It does. It feels kind of amazing, to be honest, knowing, discovering that, and then somehow lasting, you know, a decade, a whole decade, knowing it, if you will, especially with how things have been, and knowing, and then also knowing there's at least something of a community for it as well, if you will, that kind of thing. It's it's been a journey, if you will, but it's great, if you will.
It's the ace, right?
Yeah, Ace, yeah. I need to use that more often.
So, for the people at home listening and watching, Minkey is off camera because he doesn't want to be seen on camera. So, some asexuals like to have their identity anonymous, and Minkey and 5mart2 are an alias name. So, I just want to be completely honest about that because it's important that I will not invade the privacy of someone who wants to keep their identity a secret. There's a lot of aliases in this Asexual Perspectives book. People got the option of whether to use their real name or an alias name for that book. And this is true of any books I do in the future. If people want to use an alias name, they can. So I just wanted to let you know that, be completely upfront and honest. And so you'll just be seeing me on camera today. You've got my beautiful face as usual. But so I hope you don't mind that. And you'll just be hearing Minkey with his voice, not actually seeing his face. So I just thought I'd put that out there. So when you first was writing your story in this book, Minkey, you were 21 when you discovered you're asexual, and that was on the 15th of January 2015. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And how did you discover you're asexual? Because in the book, you say you don't remember exactly how you came across it. Have you had any more revelations about that?
I think it was to do about a video game, ironically, but I can't remember the exact details on the on it. But I know I was in college at the time, and you know, researching stuff then about theories and whatnot about in video games, and I was so that's so at least it's rooted in video games. That's kind of cool, I think. Yeah, because it's because video games is a big part of my life personally. And but yeah, I don't remember all the details in it, unfortunately. So
Do you want to just say a little bit about what you do with the game? And we're going to go through that more in depth later, but do you just want to say like what the connection is with gaming? Because you've got your own YouTube channel, haven't you? And I think it's important to give you a sense of place in the listener's mind about why you're like talking about video games. Like, just tell us a little bit about like why video gaming is so important to you and a little bit about your channel. Then we'll go more into that in depth towards the end of the interview.
all right, well, with my channel, I do let's plays of video games. Like that's a big thing I've been doing. I've been enjoying them a lot lately, and it's they've been they, that's just a lot. They, I do really enjoy them, and and it's how do I explain it?
Yeah, what's a let's
It's
play? Because a lot of people that are not into gaming, they don't know what let's play is. I know there's a
uh
lot of asexuals
right.
that are into
So
gaming, but I'm not a prolific gamer or a gamer at all usually. So what's a let's play?
let's play. I didn't think about this. A let's play is something. It's like a walkthrough of a video game where you show off the video game, you go through the video game, you go from point A to point B, and etc. And you talk over it. You give your own sort of style and whatnot on playing it. You show off some cool tricks and whatnot, that kind of thing. And yeah, it's genuinely an adventure kind of thing. You know, that's what Let's Plays genuinely are, and so that's been a big thing. I've been doing a lot of Let's Plays myself, and uh, especially as of late, and they've I've like I said, they're a big part of my life. So gaming in general. So obviously, like the fact that I'm able to you know just research all this stuff and play these games and whatnot, all that kind of stuff. It's kind of amazing in its own way, if you will, and I'm kind of glad that asexual. I figured I learned the asexualness from video gaming.
That's
So
amazing because I know you don't say that in the book. So this is an exclusive, people. There's diving more into the behind the scenes of this book with Minkey, 5mart2n, they're known as in this book. So that's great. Absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that. So in this book, it says that you identify or identified at that point in the book, that is in 2017, that you were aromantic, but you felt like you're on the edge of between aromantic and heteromantic. Could you dive a bit more into that and how you identify now?
uh, not. I mean, I don't think that's changed really. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure if I've like moved from that point. I keep thinking like, do I want to pursue someone or do I want to not? You know, I still don't know at this point. And at this moment, I mean, at this point, I'm thinking like obviously I've got to get back up on my feet, if you will, from stuff. But like at this point, I'm not really thinking about it. So I guess I am leaning more towards aromantic, but uh, obviously, like at the same time, I, I might go back to being heteroromantic in the future. You know, who knows or what? You know, I don't know yet, but it's something we'll see. So it's not really changed, but it could change again in the future, if you will. If that makes sense.
Is that based on your focus? Because obviously I know video gaming is a big important part of your life and I know personally you've had some challenges that you've had to overcome, and you're just getting your life kind of like going the way you really want it to go a lot more for you consistently. So, do you think like a relationship's just not your priority right now because of all the things that you've got for yourself and that you need to focus on for yourself? Or do you think it's because of your asexuality or a combination of both?
Probably the former, the focus on the gaming. So yeah, it could be based on that. It could be that I am heteroromantic and just focused at the moment on the gaming. That could be it.
Yeah, because I know you're so super focused, and if you have a relationship, it kind of does detract you from that a bit because you've got to focus on the person as well, not just the video games, haven't you? So it's a lot more. You've got to think about other things, if you know what I mean, which would take you away from your gaming. And I know how important it is for you to game. So something that we didn't touch on in the book, which I'm going to obviously ask you more questions about your chapter, is the fact you're on the autistic spectrum. And I know there's loads of people in the asexual community who's on the autistic spectrum. I have to say that I've known sexuals, like heterosexuals, that are autistic, and obviously they're not asexual. So I just want to put it out there that not every person who's asexual is autistic, because there's quite a myth within the community that autism and asexuality are at one with each other, and if someone's autistic they're automatically asexual, and that the majority, if not all, of people who are asexual are autistic, which isn't true. But from your own point of view, how does your autism and asexuality overlap, or do they not?
Honestly, I don't think they do. Like I don't know because I don't know. I couldn't really tell you to be honest. Because like to me, like well, I mean, I guess from an outsider's perspective, it's autism, but to me, from the inside perspective, it's normal. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't know what's autism and what's normal for me in that sense, if you will. So because to me, it's just normal. It's I don't see it any different. I can't, or at least myself, any different in that sense, if you will.
Yeah, it's like being asexual is different to a lot of people, but it's still normal for people who are asexual to be asexual.
Yeah, yeah,
It's that type of thing. But one thing I have to say, which I've noticed about you, which I think is reflective of a really good character trait, if you like, with asexual. Sorry, I was going to say with asexuality, with autistic people, but obviously I know quite a lot of autistic people in the asexual community. So is that when you get like interested in something, which is, for example, you're gaming, you're like obsessed to the point where you can multitask and really focus so precisely on spending hours video editing and hours gaming because it's your passion and what you enjoy. And I've noticed people on the autistic spectrum, they tend to have at least one thing they're absolutely obsessed about. But because they're obsessed about it so much, they're laser like focused on it, which means they're very productive in that area. It could be multiple areas as well. But I've noticed in general autistic people, because I've had quite a lot of autistic friends and my best friends on the autistic spectrum as well, that they tend to be like laser like focused on at least one thing or multiple projects they can actually multitask on because the way your brain works is like I don't know, like supercharged or something, and be able to like I think it's a lot more logical as well, and you're able to be a lot more productive when you're focused. Do you know what I mean? Because in general, people have so much going on in their life, but I think you and some other autistic people I know, they're laser like focused on at least one particular thing, which means you can excel in it. That's what I'm trying to say. And I think that's a benefit of being what they call neurodivergent now, which is, which is a beautiful word, really, because it just means you're different in the way your mind works, which is good.
yeah, yeah.
So do you agree with that or not? Or is there anything
I
you say about that?
I think I agree with it. I don't disagree with it, if you will. Uh, like I said, like I said, to me it's normal, so I couldn't really comment too much on that, if you will. Just like yeah, I do like enjoy laser focusing on stuff. I do enjoy getting on with stuff and doing a lot of focusing on stuff and on my progress and whatnot. I really enjoy it, and it's just amazing. Well, it's fun
Yeah.
because usually I underestimate myself and think like, oh, I'm not going to get this done, and I surprise myself in a good way, and that I get it done, or somehow manage to get it done or get it done early or whatever, exceed my expectations, if you will.
You do a lot of work. Minkey, uh, they are brilliant at video editing. They are absolutely amazing at video editing, and they're really good at doing the gaming, and they get so much done. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like how do you get all that done? Like, if I put myself in Minkey's shoes, I couldn't. That's because obviously I'm not a gamer, and my brain like probably doesn't work as efficiently in terms of being laser like focused, and so he gets so much done and releases so many videos on his channel, really well edited, and the thumbnails are good as well. They're very interesting. And so I just really admire all the hard work you put in to your channel regularly, like consistently, which is what a lot of other people lack on their channels is consistency. And it is really hard to be consistent sometimes, but I think because you are so obsessed with your passion, which is amazing, and you've got the type of mindset and brain, if you like, that's able to do that, I just think you can really excel and soar. And so I want to say how great you are at what you do with all your video editing, because I know people who couldn't even get like one video out a week, and you get like sometimes three or even more. I think you've told me one time you got about seven videos out, wasn't it? Like very short space of time. Was it every couple of days or every other day or something?
I I don't know if it was recent, but I know it was like way before. Like I know I was getting like 7 videos out. I managed to just get 7 videos out a week, if you will, one a day, and release them, if you will. And so I don't know how I managed that back then, but uh, nowadays I'm not. I'm still doing like a good portion of videos, even if they're not all releasing, because I like to keep up a schedule now. I don't want to just like release a random video each day now, because that's kind of what I was doing before. It was kind of like a random order. Obviously,
Yeah.
it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but it'll be different let's plays, randomly assorted, if you will, to help kind of like okay, this one series today, and then a different series tomorrow, and a different one tomorrow, and then I'll go back to the first one for the fourth day, that kind of thing. But now it's like a set schedule, so it'll always be. So if I do something on a Monday, it will always be on a Monday. Do consistently, if you will, or if you can expect it on a Monday, you won't expect it on a Tuesday, for example. Same thing on Tuesday, you'd expect it. I I start a series on a Tuesday, you can expect it on a Tuesday, kind of thing, and not on any of the other days, generally speaking.
That's really, really good. So if we go back to asexuality and we go back to the fact your identity's still the same. When you said you might be heteromantic rather than aromantic in the future, meaning you might pursue someone more. So you're only attracted to women, are you? Because you're a guy and you identify as a guy, don't you? You're cis male, born male. However, people want to phrase it at home, depending on what language you like to use. So you're only attracted to the opposite gender, which is women. Is that right? You're still the same on that?
Yeah, yeah. So on that, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So, um, let's dive more into Minkey's story, 5mart2n. Right, okay. So yes, when I asked you, are you out about being asexual? At that point, you said you are out, to your cousin, but it wasn't because you told your cousin direct. They saw a video on your channel. So you have had videos on your channel that's about asexuality. Is that true?
yeah. That is true. I did have some videos on my channel before, but I have since taken them down for personal reasons, and I unfortunately don't have them anymore. I don't think. I think I somehow managed to lose them, so that's a bit unfortunate. But I can always see about doing something new in the future, if you will. So that's at least something, I guess.
But it's good you're here now on a big
Well,
asexual.
yeah, true.
I had over 1 million views just before Christmas on this channel, so I didn't think this channel would get as big as that. You know what I mean? That's pretty incredible with the amount of reach I've had for asexuality, and it's took me a long time because I wasn't getting like that many views in the beginning. I remember when I was getting like 4,000 views a month on this channel, and now I get over about well on average about 22,000, between 20 and 22,000 a lot on this channel. So to be able to get that sort of reach nowadays is incredible. Obviously, I work hard for that because it's not easy getting asexuality recognized in the algorithm when a lot of people are heterosexual and pushing sexualized stuff all the time. But I try my best, and so yeah, you're doing really well here. So going back to that about your cousin, is there anyone else? I know you said that your cousin's dad probably knows, which is your uncle. Is there anyone else you've told about your asexuality? Obviously, I know, but is there anyone else you've told?
Not in person, no. It's been kept kind of pretty much secret, if you will, in person, and nowadays I don't have anyone in person to tell, so there's no like talking about it, if you will. I don't talk about it in person because I've just got no one to talk to about it, if you will.
Oh yeah, because we live
Yes,
miles apart, don't we? We have met up
yeah,
before because you filmed me for the UK Asexuality Conference, which is on this channel, that footage.
yeah,
And in 2018, I have to say, I don't know if I told you this at the time, but that footage, as far as I know, is the only footage that exists from that event because the organization who was running it got to film, they didn't deliver the actual video footage in the end. So, as far as I know, that is the only video footage that exists from that 2018 UK Asexuality Conference in which I was a speaker. So if you hadn't have filmed me that day, there'd be no footage whatsoever. It would be like no one would be able to see any of it. So as far as I know, the only footage is on my channel, or it originally came from me if someone else has decided to remix it on their channel, because they can do that on YouTube these days. But yeah, so I wanted to say thank you for that. It just goes to show how amazing that is, you know. We were in the same hotel but in separate rooms, weren't we? So but we live miles apart. That's why we haven't met up and had different stuff going on in our lives. Because we did talk about meeting last summer, didn't we? But it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, we live miles and miles apart. So which is a shame, really. Um,
Yeah.
so is there any friends you've told, like online friends, that you're asexual, or are you a part of any asexual groups, or do you tend to just not go in them?
Uh, I don't think I'm in any asexual groups. Not really.
You're in my Asexualise Academy club, though.
Oh yeah, I'm in on that. I haven't properly checked Facebook in a long time, so I might be in a. I probably well, I am in a few. My, yeah, I'm in a few on Facebook at least. Uh, I'm not in any on Discord. What else am I? But my channel icon, my channel avatar, usually has like the asexual symbol on it, so you can see that I'm asexual just from that if you know what the flag is. So obviously, if you know what it is, then you know that I'm probably asexual. You can probably assume that, if you will, for lack of a better word. Otherwise, I don't really discuss it with people because it really usually doesn't come up in topics, if you will. It's more so I'm also talking about video games and whatnot and stuff like that, and maybe I'll relate it to asexuality if uh if the topic comes up or something, but that's quite a rare occurrence to be honest, unfortunately. So
Do you ever speak to that cousin that you told years ago about your asexuality, or do you not speak to them anymore?
no, not anymore. No,
Oh, so really the topic doesn't come up because you don't really tell anyone else much. So
no,
yeah,
yeah.
right, okay, got it. So when you said in the book, when you answered what's your deepest fear, concern, or worry about being asexual, you said more stress and too many changes in life at once if you were to come out and not being taken seriously about it. Do you still fear that to this day?
Probably not. I would say only because uh like back then when I answered, it was my situation was very different, practically the polar opposite of what it is now. So the stresses I was thinking, or it was most of the changes. It was the changes of what would happen and whatnot, and that was concerning. And then obviously the stresses kind of stemmed from that, and then to the point where it's like, I don't know what would happen, if it did or not, because obviously uh, it's not very common. It's not very well known about. At least in 2017, well, it's less known about in 2017 and whatnot. And then obviously, it's and I just didn't think, for the most part, I didn't think it was worth coming out to people, if you will. Um, like it would have been a much bigger detriment to me rather than a uh, non-detriment, whatever the opposite of detriment is, if you will.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, that kind of thing. So, yeah, I didn't think about it back then to do it back then, but now, well, as I say, I've got really no one to talk to about it, so it's not going to change anything.
Apart from
So,
me, and
well,
you just
yeah,
know I'm
well for you,
asexual
but
all the time.
I don't think talking to you about it is going to negatively affect my life.
No, it's positive.
So,
Yeah. Oh. And so, wow. Yeah, so I think a lot of people who are listening can relate because I mean, I'm openly asexual to the world and I'm very, very loud and proud, but I'm very like different in the sense that I'll go and tell a supermarket person, like operator, that I'm asexual and a taxi driver that I'm asexual, which people wouldn't dream of even thinking about doing, let alone doing. So I know that I'm kind of far out there when it comes to talking about asexuality. But I know for a lot of people who watch this channel, they're still not out about being asexual either. So I'm just curious to know when you said it would be more of a detriment to you in your past, are you able to share any of the information about why it would have been to your detriment, or is that like personal stuff you don't want to go into?
Um, well, it's just typical. It's mostly normal stuff, if you will, if that makes sense. Like it's just stuff like I don't know how people are going to react. I don't know if they're going to negatively react to the point where it's like send me to straight camp, for example, for such a big word. I know that's quite the big thing, but obviously that's an idea because I know people things. But yeah, that's the general idea, if you will. That I had to deal with, if you will. That's the general stress idea, if you will.
Wow. Wow, straight
So
camp. I think people would try to literally make you be heterosexual and they would try and force their opinion on you and try and make maybe push you towards heterosexual relationships and put a lot of pressure on you to be.
yeah, mm,
That's very interesting. I think a lot of people can relate to those types of fears,
mm,
because in the heteronormative society we live in, it can be quite frightening, especially like I'm very confident in my asexuality. I wasn't like that when I first discovered I'm asexual, but nowadays I'm very, very confident. So no one can really like change me or influence me in that way or put any idea in my head other than what I am because I'm so convinced I'm asexual. I know it because I've seen it from basically looking back in my life now. I was born asexual and didn't realize it. So I guess I have like a lot of confidence in that area, whereas people have confidence in other areas. So I don't really worry about stuff like that. But I know people's circumstances are different. I mean, some people they still live at home with their parents, and unfortunately, some people's parents are really not nice about asexuality. I mean, I know some foreign countries, for example, it's scorned upon to be asexual, just like it is being gay. So I know for some people, it's just not safe for people to come out about asexuality, even if they wished they could, if you know what I mean. That's how they feel. So I think that people could also be worried, like you said, about having people try to make them be something they're not. And I think that's a problem in general with the world is that when people see people are asexual and different to them, they don't understand it. So they want to change what they don't understand so that they feel more comfortable. And I'm glad that you have now, like at least privately, known that you're asexual for 10 years and you kept the asexual faith, as it were. You know you're asexual. Because I know in the book it said, in your chapter, it said that I identify as asexual, at least for now. Currently, that's what the actual words you use currently. So, was there any doubt in your mind at any point that you might not be asexual? And if so, how did that come about? Like, what put that idea in your head that you might not be asexual, or was that just erring on the side of caution?
it might have been erring on the side of caution. It was just like still sort of early days for me, and it wasn't a big thing for me, if you will. It wasn't a big like. I wasn't thinking too much of like let's think about your sexuality constantly kind of thing. It was just like it's just like oh I figured I learned about this new word and then oh yeah that applies to me a lot, so I think okay I'm probably that, then I'm probably asexual and then so I kind of did stick to it because I knew like yeah it very much described me because I wasn't that interested in other people sexually or whatever, so I knew sort of like yeah it probably is me if it because it makes sense, it wouldn't make sense to not be it, if you will. So I kind of stuck to it and I'm glad I did. So yeah, that's something, and I hope I can kind of reflect that in more areas for myself, and also others can also reflect in that sort of thing as well. Because like I know, like for other things, I'm still dealing with you know with stuff, if you will, that stuff um unfaith, if you will, if that makes sense, from in other areas and such and whatnot. And I just hope it's a good message to send out to say like to say that you're you kind of thing, if you will, and to be you and don't let others like take that away from you kind of thing.
It's
So
brilliant. I think it's really good.
Yeah.
So you said when I asked you why do you feel in general that society doesn't accept asexuality, I'm reading for the book now, as a form of sexual orientation in its own right, and what can be done? You said because a lot of the people in the world are sexual and not enough word is being spread about asexuality for those who are asexual but not as confident to feel confident about being open about their asexuality. Do you think that's still the same? Like this book was published in 2017, so we're now in 2025, which is what, 8 years ago, if I got my maths correct. I'm not great at maths, it's not my strong point. But do you think that's changed, or do you think there's still not enough done about asexuality to spread the word of asexuality and make people feel confident in coming out?
Uh, I think I'm not. I couldn't give a proper answer for that because I haven't been able to research that too much. But I imagine I feel like in passing I have seen more discussed about it. So I feel like I want to say that yes, it has been improved upon, if you will. I feel like there's more discussion on it and whatnot, more acceptance and whatnot in it, and so I feel like I feel like that's a good yes. Uh, things have improved, if you will.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to say that's it.
Do you still think more can be done? What more do you think could be done? I
Oh
mean,
no, sorry. I think more is being done. Sorry, that's what I mean. Yeah.
yeah, but is there anything right, okay, so you think more is being done, but is there anything even more that could be done? Do you think enough is being done, is should be my question.
Okay. I don't. That's the part I can't answer properly, unfortunately.
Okay. That's okay. So, with your knowledge at the moment, you're saying that you think things have improved, but because you're into gaming and you're not so focused about asexuality as I am, obviously, because I do a whole channel about asexuality all the time, then it's not been on your radar for keeping up with how much publicity or not publicity and asexuality has, and how people are talking about or not talking about it. Like you haven't been keeping abreast of the changes that much because your life doesn't revolve around asexuality like my life does, for example.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Is that fair to say? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know because a lot of people's life, I mean, my whole life revolves around asexuality, doesn't it? Well, most people's doesn't. Um, right. Okay. Yes, I've got a really good question now. Right. I asked you in this book, have you been in love before? And you said, what's your view on love? And you said, I think it's a possibility. And while I have been in love before, I doubt it will happen again for me personally in terms of a relationship, which is fine with me. So we've already discussed at the moment you're not focused on a relationship. But I'm keen to know, like, when you say you've been in love before, like, are you able to share any details about that and how that was for you as an asexual person, like being in love? Like, what did that feel like to you?
Well, I've had a girlfriend before,
Oh, wow.
and
I know this. I'm not sure that I did.
but
I remember. Are you ever telling me this?
but that was that was even before I knew I was asexual and all that. So like a good portion before.
Wow.
So I want to say when, but it was before 2015. I'll say that at least. When I
2015. So before you were 21, yeah?
Yeah, before I figured out I was asexual,
Right, yeah,
because it
because
was pretty early in the year 2015. So it's
ah,
before
right, okay.
2015, and uh, obviously that was a long time ago now, and I don't even remember it, to be honest, that well,
Oh,
and I don't know. So, but now it's like I don't know. To be honest, it's like
you
such a
don't
long
seem,
time ago.
I was gonna say you don't seem that bothered
No,
about the relationship. But
not to come off as horrible or anything. It's just I'm not. It's just not. I don't know.
well, if you're on the aromantic spectrum anyway, most aromantic people are not that interested in having a relationship because they lack the romantic attraction. Like I'm a
Yeah, yeah.
romantic, I'm a heteroromantic and hyper romantic to boot. So obviously I've got constant romance going on in my physiology pretty much every single day as a hyper romantic. I mean, I'm excessively romantic. So it's just
Yeah.
I'm not even in the bracket of normality where heteromantic's concerned. I'm like far out up the sky, like, oh, romance, woo! And I mean, just keep myself sane lately. I've been watching, well, off and on in between everything I've got to do, like when I'm eating my food, for example, romantic Christmas movies, like just non. When I say non-stop, obviously I've had to stop because I've got so much going on, but what I mean to say is I've been watching them because like the romance makes me feel good. And then I obviously feel like, oh, I want to be in a romantic relationship now, and then that's not so good. So then I might think best not watch that bit for a while, but they cheer me up, but they're so formulaic. And I'm like, I want the guy and the girl to get together and kiss at the end because I'm such a romantic person. I'm like, where's the kiss? Do it very well. I'm like, that's pathetic, isn't it? I waited a whole hour and 30 something minutes just to see a pathetic kiss at the end. But if it's a good kiss, I'm like, about time too. So I'm kind of like seeing that makes me really happy, but at the same time, then it makes me feel like I haven't got a romantic partner. Whereas if I don't watch that, then obviously I think more about being on my own and I'm not bothered so much about not having a romantic relationship. So I think it's good because there's a lot of people who watch this channel who are aromantic or aromantic, as most people pronounce it, which is absence of romantic attraction as well as sexual attraction. So, can I ask you though, like, did you find out you're asexual in that relationship? Like, did you notice anything different about yourself to like the heterosexual, heteronormative world? Like, did you notice, oh, I'm different to other people in that relationship, or did you not find that out? Did you not figure that out?
No, that was it was like it it was not it's like I said, the whole relationship was way before 2015, so I it was completely unrelated. So
Ah.
yeah, I didn't figure anything out there.
Yeah, because I've been in relationships in the past, and looking back now, it's obvious I was asexual in those relationships, but didn't realize it. So, for example, I wouldn't really be interested in sex. Like, I wouldn't be even thinking about sex. So that when the person brought it up, it would be something I'd not thought about before, for example. So, when you're in that relationship, do you remember ever thinking about sexual stuff when you're in that specific relationship, or did that never happen?
Well, I mean, I've known for a very long time that I wasn't interested. I wasn't really interested sexually, but I thought that was just a normal thing. I thought you had to be interested in sexuality with someone, even if it was like another man, or because if you're gay or whatever, or if or what, it's I just thought you had to be sexually attracted to someone if you were. I didn't think there was an asexual or a romantic part. So back then, I just thought it was just a normal thing. I had to be sexual, you know, you know what I mean, that kind of thing. So I didn't learn anything from that because I just had the presumption because it was just so integrated into my mind. Because as normal as like you have to be sexual, be it hetero, homo, or bi. So
Yeah.
whichever you choose, not choose, but you know what I mean. It's one of those three basically.
Or
And
pansexual.
oh yeah, pansexual. I didn't have pansexual in my mind at the time, so I was just thinking the three. But yeah, pansexual works too. But I mean, I didn't think there was the possibility of a lack of of no sexual attraction, if you will. I didn't think that was plausible back then. Really, I didn't know of that back then. Back in before 2015. Like I said, I only learned about it in 2015. So yeah, that's that, if you will.
Did you think you were heterosexual? Because I thought I was heterosexual for years because that's what society basically dictates you are, conditions you to believe. The majority of people in society, anyway. I'm not saying everyone, because some people are lesbian couples and they bring their children up to know that heterosexual is not the only sexuality. But I was conditioned, like no fault of my parents, because they didn't know asexuality existed back then either. But I was conditioned to believe that I was heterosexual and I thought I had to have sex in order to have a healthy, happy relationship, like everyone tells you to. And well, the majority of people say in the world too. And I didn't realize that I wasn't heterosexual, but I remember me even thinking, for example, I knew a guy in college and he invited me back to his flat. We were friends, but in my head, the reason I didn't go is because I thought he'd want sex with me. And that's why I said no. And so I know now, looking back on that, I was definitely asexual back then, but didn't realize it because of the thoughts I was having, because of, like when the guy who was my boyfriend, he was 18 and I was 15, and he was, well, I don't know if you know asexual perspectives, but what happened in that, but, he tried to have sex against my will, basically. It shocked me. I didn't even think about sex. That was the point. So, it never entered my mind because I didn't think like that. So, do you remember anything about your childhood, about looking back where you weren't thinking about sex because, you just didn't think that way? Or did your mind think about sex because you thought that's what you had to think about? Can you remember anything like that?
Well, I remember at first it was I was always told, you know, when you have kids, kind of thing, as opposed to if you have kids. And then I remember that. I don't know if that was, and then I don't know if that was inclusion of negating homosexuality as well, if you will, in that sense. But 'cause obviously, if
Right.
you're bisexual or pansexual, you can still kind of get in a relationship and get and have kids and that. Uh, but like obviously, I was always told when you have kids, and I was thinking like I remember even as a kid, I was thinking like, no, I don't want kids. F off. It's like, no, I don't want kids. And I always, and I thought like, but then I thought like, that like, what was it? But then I thought, oh, okay, well, it's got to be the normal anyway. It's normal anyway. Obviously it's not, but it's well, it is, but it's not for me. And I remember thinking like, it's funny. I remember thinking as a kid, I was told when you have kids of your own, right?
Yeah.
So I was thinking like, okay, what does my future look like? And in my head, right,
Yeah.
the way I would picture in my head, this is sounds horrible, but when you realize from the perspective, right? I remember thinking that I would be the father who would just sit on the couch watching telly all day, eating crisps and whatnot. And I remember thinking that as a kid,
Oh my
and the
God.
wife would be going out doing the job and whatever and all that kind of thing.
As well as looking after the kid.
Pretty much, yeah.
But that was coming from a point of view of you weren't interested in having children. You were like, well, if that person wants to have kids, fair enough, but they'll have to look after it and do everything for it and go out to work and feed
No,
it. I'm
that
not
was
interested.
that was no, that was coming from the perspective of like, no, I don't want kids, but it's a normal anyway, so I've got to have kids. So I'm going to bring kids into this world, knowing full well that I'm not interested. I'm not going to bother taking care of them. Like,
Right.
obviously, I wouldn't want to do that. I want to wish that on them.
Yeah.
So I'm doing my kids a massive favor by not having them, if you
Yeah.
will. But but like I remember thinking that back then, and thinking like, you know, just how and I think back to it and think, wow, I kind of sound horrible if I'd gone through with that. Fortunately, I know better nowadays. I know not to have any kids and make anyone suffer like that, if you will. But like I remember thinking like that, and then I remember thinking as well, like I don't want anyone involved in it. If you will. I don't want anyone from my family or whatever involved. So but obviously, like, oh, you got to have them involved anyway. And I remember thinking like hearing about like being able to pay a homeless person to just um what's it like acknowledge the marriage, if you will. That makes sense, something like that. I remember hearing something about that, how you can do that. Bearing in mind, this was still when I thought that you had to get together with someone and have kids and whatnot. And um, I was like, I kind of remember the journey a little bit of how that kind of evolved into
Yeah.
where I am now, knowing that like because for a time before I learned about sexuality, it was just a case of like, yeah, I'm not doing anything like that. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm not gonna have kids or anything, or I'm not really interested in marriage. It's just like I don't want kids, so I'm not gonna have kids. I've got no reason to. So yeah, hopefully that's answered your question, even if it's a bit
It's,
dark. But
no, it's really good because there's a lot of people who listen to my channel, not everyone, but a lot of people that don't want children. I've never wanted children. I knew since 15 years old that I don't want kids. And the doctor said to me, you'll change your mind when you're older. And I like want to scream. It's like, No, I won't. I know my own mind even at 15 years old, and I'm never going to change my mind. And I've never changed it. At 15, I was contemplating would I like adoption? Because obviously, I know you said that gay people, homosexual people can't have kids, but obviously there's always adoption or fostering. But I think you meant having kids of your own, didn't you, biologically?
Yeah,
But I asked myself the question at 15, okay, so you don't physically want them, Sandra. Would you want to adopt? And I'm thinking, no, I just wouldn't want that lifestyle. It just wouldn't suit who I am. And I knew even growing up that I like attention on me. I'm not like shy of saying that. I'm not afraid to say that I do like the attention on me. And I always felt that if I was in a relationship with me and a guy and a kid, that I wouldn't get the attention that I actually wanted. And but I physically didn't want it in me. I knew that I physically didn't want kids. I would never ever want that in my body. I'm very, very squeamish about blood and stuff, and I wouldn't want that pain, and I wouldn't want all that stuff. And I also knew that I didn't want that lifestyle because I'm a very responsible person. And if I did have children, I'd be a different person because I'd have different responsibilities, a different lifestyles, have to put the kid first in many respects. I'd have to change the way I did things and adapt my life. And, I'm not into cooking and cleaning and housework and stuff. That's not who I am. And I know some guys don't mind doing that these days, but I just feel that I'm the young one. I've always felt like well, I haven't always felt that when I was really like a young getting birth certificate at primary school. I was like an old soul. But as my life's progressed, I've got younger and younger in my soul, which is good. But I know even now that I don't want that lifestyle. I mean, someone said to me on a business Zoom call, networking it was, that because I was having a interesting conversation with them that wasn't really going too well because they were trying to say that even if you got kids, it doesn't have to change your life like the way people think it does. But I personally totally disagree with that, and this person was someone whose business revolved around, you know, um, loving parenthood. But I felt what they had done is because they found parenthood difficult in some ways. They basically adapted their life and mindset to feel good about having kids, which I think you have to do. I think if you've got kids, you should change your mindset to be happy to have them and adapt to that type of lifestyle if you've made that decision, because it's better than resenting the children. I do think that's a good thing. But I'm thinking if I want to, I can't go clubbing at the moment because I've got injuries, but I'm like, if I wanted to go clubbing till 2 a.m. in the morning, I can't do that if I've got a chick, a kid, children. And you know what I mean? I don't want to be getting up early, cooking and cleaning because I'm not that type of person. And if I was in a relationship, I'd want it to be just me and the person because I think a relationship is difficult enough and hard work as it is between just you and that other person rather than having another person involved, if you know what I mean. I think it's even, I think children complicate things. And I think if you don't really want children, you shouldn't have them because you're, like you kind of touched on, you're doing the children a disfavor if you don't really want them, do you? Do you know what I mean? So it's much better to not have them, I think, if you don't want them. And I'm a person that really doesn't want children. I'm really happy about it. I couldn't have the lifestyle at all that I have now if I had kids. It would be an absolute nightmare. I'd be a different type of person. And I noticed, which you said as well, as you said in the book, that you're not interested in marriage either. Did you want to dive a bit more into why you're not interested in marriage? Because I think our viewers would like to hear that more.
in the case of marriage, I don't know. I've just never, it's just never been on my to-do list. I've never thought about like, oh, marriage. Okay, yeah, it comes with having kids or whatever. And it's like I don't care. I don't want kids. I don't. It's like, what? Why is this a thing I need to do? It's not something for me, if you will. I get it's something for other people, and I'm not going to take that away from them. But for me personally, it's not the me thing. It's not the Minkey way, if you will.
Hey, the
It's
Minkey Way.
it's just it's just not for me, if you will. It's if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's basically it. Really.
Yeah, I don't want marriage either. But there was a time when I did want marriage and I was engaged years ago. to be married years ago, and that just didn't work. But I just think it's so difficult because people change in life. I've learned through my own experience of being in relationships that people change, and if you're tied into a contract with someone and that person changes or the dynamic just doesn't work out anymore, not only have you got the heartbreak of having to like leave that relationship, which can be devastating, you've also got all that financial burden of getting solicitors and all the conversations you don't really want to have with your ex when it's painful. Do you know what I mean? They might have moved on and seeing someone else. And I just think it's in terms of like heartbreak, it's prolonging the heartbreak, if you know what I mean, and prolonging the pain, and it's a financial burden, extra stress that I just don't think's good. So from a romantic point of view, sometimes even now I think, oh, wouldn't it be nice, Sandra, to find the right guy? And from a romantic point of view, be married to them for the rest of your life, like in the romantic movies. But I'm like, we're not in a romantic movie, we're in reality. And reality can be a lot more harsher. And there's a lot of people that get married, they get divorced because they just realize they're not compatible anymore, or they change and then they become uncompatible, or something else happens, one of them cheats. And as an asexual person myself, I have been cheated on in the past, which I think was to do with the fact that I didn't really want sex. I wasn't really interested in it. So because I wasn't having sex, then they sought that elsewhere. But also, I don't think those guys were particularly good guys anyway for me. So I think their character wasn't great. So that's probably got something to do with it as well. But if I have a partner and they really want sex, then I would rather not be with that partner and then have a relationship with someone who's having sex with someone else because I'm fiercely monogamous. But in your questions and answers, I asked you a question and you said it was to do with, actually, I'm skipping ahead a bit. Um, it was to do with, do you think, as a question about, do you think an asexual with sexual relationship can work? Oh, yeah, here it is. Do you believe if a sexual person had a relationship with an asexual, it can work? And what do you think about being fair or not? And then you said, I think it can work as not every sexual person needs sex to feel comfort, therefore could live without it. And not every asexual person doesn't want sex, therefore that could work out as well. However, in a scenario where the sexual person wants sex and the asexual person doesn't, I believe an agreement should be set for the sexual person to be able to have sex with someone else on the side, as long as the asexual person gets something in return as part of the agreement. It's a very tricky area to discuss. So I'm coming from I'm really fiercely monogamous, and I would see that as cheating and completely unacceptable. But there are people in the asexual community that think and feel the same as you. So can you share more about your perspective, please, Minky, about how you think in principle and in actual reality that such an arrangement would work, and why do you think that's a good way of being and acceptable in a relationship? Because obviously I'm the opposite in thought to you, but I think some of our viewers are the same as you. So I'd like to hear your view.
Okay, so the way I saw it, and I kind of still see it today as well, is like obviously you come to an agreement. So obviously for you, you would say no, I don't want to come to that agreement. Either you don't have either it's just me in the relationship, or we break up, kind of thing. That's for you, and that's fair enough, obviously. For me, the way I kind of saw it, and I kind of still do, and I think it would obviously think it works on a person to person basis. Obviously, like it's like if I was in a relationship with a sexual person, kind of thing, someone who wanted sex and they wanted to have sex, but I wasn't willing to do that,
Yeah.
I would probably say let's come to some sort of agreement because I don't want to not because personally, like I don't want to stop them from having sex, but I don't want to give them sex, you know. So in a way, I feel like we probably it's probably best if we came to some sort of agreement where they could do something where they could get their sex
Yeah.
and maybe I would get something in return or something like that. That's
What
kind of
do you
the
get in
general.
return?
I don't know what I would get in return, but that's kind of the general idea that I have. I don't know if I would say that I need something in return, to be honest, because obviously I don't have that experience yet. I don't know how I would feel about it. Because to be honest, I probably like if I were to put myself in that situation,
Yeah, please do. I want.
I I probably wouldn't be bothered personally because I know that they would want sex anyway, and I know they're not trying to be horrible, if you will. Excuse me. It's but so like personally, I wouldn't personally be bothered in such a case because as long as they're honest about it, as long as they're honest about it, they're not like trying to like lie about it or be, you know, trying to hide it or anything. You know what I mean. It's but like that's coming from sort of like maybe, well, that's coming from my perspective, and maybe I am kind of naive about it, if you will. So I don't know, but personally, if I were to put myself in that situation, I wouldn't be too bothered as long as they're honest about it, if you will.
So when you say honest about, would you want to be told about all the
Me.
different sexual partners? Do you need to get a drink of water? We can drink water. Let's have a drink
Yeah,
of water.
sorry, I need to drink.
It's going to be talking for over an hour. That's why.
Yeah.
So yeah, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I was saying um about how that would work in principle. Like, would you actually, like in reality, would you like the person to tell you like when they've had sex with someone else, for example, and who else they're actually seeing at the moment besides you? Like, are they sleeping with multiple people or is it just one other person? And would you like that person to be in the relationship with like you as well? Or would you just want them to see them privately? Or would you want to hang out with that person as well, like in a polyamorous, like full relationship where their partner, other partners, their sexual partners? Or would you
Okay.
know stuff like that?
Okay, I see what you mean. So, okay, so the way I would personally look at it is, so like if they were just having sex with other people and there wasn't like a relationship, I probably wouldn't be bothered as long as they were honest about it. So if they say like, if I asked them like where they were, for example, which I'm not in a controlling way, but if I asked them where they were at such a time, and
Yeah.
they told me the truth, and they said, "Oh, I was with this person, I was having sex with them," I wouldn't be bothered because they're being honest about it.
Yeah, got you.
But if they're getting in a relationship with someone else, I'd probably want them to tell me at least.
Uh-huh.
But I wouldn't like. I don't know if it's a case of like. I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to. I don't know if I'd be fine with sharing, quote unquote, if you will, but because I'm not having sex with them anyway, so but like, but I wouldn't want a polyamorous. It is polyamorous, the multiple. I
Yeah,
wouldn't want a multi.
polyamorous relationship is where you have
Yeah,
an open relationship and they're allowed to have relationships, sexual or otherwise, with other people as well as you.
yeah. Like I
Which
wouldn't
would be a polyamorous one, really. How would it differ from a polyamorous one?
like. I mean, I don't know. To be honest, I don't know if I. 'Cause I don't know because I don't know. To be honest, like I wouldn't think I would have multiple. I wouldn't imagine having multiple myself, but that's
Right.
because not because I'd be happy with just one, but simply because I couldn't imagine getting multiple people. To put it
Ah,
bluntly,
right. So if you
yeah,
had the opportunity to like have two asexual partners, for example, and your sexual partner had two or three or whatever more sexual partners, would you be all right with something like that?
maybe. I don't know, to be honest.
It's really interesting. I think it's good for the viewers because obviously it gives them a
Yeah,
different perspective because I'm the opposite of this. So I like people to hear different people's perspectives because obviously
yeah,
asexual perspectives, 47 asexual stories books. I want people to know there's people in this book that are not all the same as me. They're completely different perspectives. And
yeah,
5mart2n is Minkey's alias name in here. So this is really important because I think people who are asexual, some people feel the same way as you, and they don't actually know how it would work in principle and what they would like and what they wouldn't be comfortable with. And so I just thought it'd be good to explore that. So for the
mm,
listeners that are and the viewers that are more open to that, how would it work in principle? It's quite practical advice for them, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's one of those like areas where it's just gotta like you gotta discuss it and you gotta understand each other's feelings and whatnot in regards to it. I mean, like I said, personally, I think like because I'm not gonna give anyone sex. You know, I'm not that, I don't, I'm not, I just don't want it or anything of the sort.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. That's where I'm coming from. It's like if I was in a relationship with someone and they wanted sex, I don't want to stop them from having sex, but I don't want to just stop the relationship of that. If you would, if that makes sense. So it's it's like it's like if you're not interested in a, I know this is pretty different, but but I feel like the comparison is there at least. It's like if you're not interested in, it's like if I wasn't interested in a certain video game series, I wouldn't tell them not to play that video game series because I wasn't interested in it, kind of thing. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a video game and not actual sex, but I think the comparison is still there at least. To
What about emotional connection though? Or don't you really have that much emotional connection with people? Like, don't you ever, because I have like because obviously there's different types of intelligence, isn't there? Like logical intelligence, relational intelligence, emotional intelligence, and emotional connection. Do you not think about emotional connection? Like would it affect how you emotionally felt about the person, or do you not really come from an emotional connection point of view? Because I said on this channel that I believe that asexuals usually when we love it's from an emotional connection because of the physical stuff's not there. But how do you see asexual love? Like how would you describe it? Like I describe it as like we emotional connection for me, a deep emotional connection, as well as obviously aesthetic attraction and romantic attraction, but it's the emotional connection that would kind of keep it going in the main for me and would dictate, I guess, how I felt about the person and whether I want them in my life continuously or not. So does emotional connection come into it for you, or is emotional connection not something that you're that familiar with or know about?
I probably it's probably something I've not thought about, and I don't think that's really it. I don't think I've really thought about it all that much, but it is. I think that's a good point. But I think if I were to look at it, it's like if I'm understanding it correctly, from the emotional point, it's like I, I would want them to be happy, kind of thing.
Right.
So obviously, if they're happier getting some sex on the side, I think I would be emotionally happy if you will, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah,
And
it's yeah, it's really interesting topic. It's really interesting to dive into this because obviously I don't really talk about this on my channel that much because it's not something I'm personally interested in. But that's why I like having you on this channel to give this different insight and perspective. And it's kind of like nice because I feel that you're doing it from a good place if you were to do that. It's like coming from a place of caring about the other person, maybe more than yourself in that way. And the fact that you're thinking that if sex makes them happy and you love that person, you'd want them to be happy. So you're happy for them to have the sex elsewhere. Is that right?
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that would make sense. Yeah,
Yeah, it's really insightful because with me, obviously, I'm not like that. I'm like, with me because it's like I have a completely different mindset. It's that like to me that I understand where you're coming from. I think it's a really good, if you're going to be in that position and do that, I think it's a very loving way of doing it because I think some people would be on the fence about whether they could do that or not, and they wouldn't know why and how they can do that. But I think the fact that you can articulate that you would be happy just to see them happy doing something they love, and if they love sex, then that's good. I think the fact you can articulate that is amazing and really good because there are a lot of people who are actually polyamorous in polyamorous relationships that can't even think and feel that way. I don't think. I'm not polyamorous, so don't quote me on that. There might be loads of people that come in chat now going, I'm polyamorous and I feel that way, which is good if you do. But what I'm saying is I don't usually hear polyamorous people speak that way from anyone I've spoken to. I don't speak to a lot of polyamorous people, but I have polyamorous people in my asexual groups, and I don't, so I don't obviously know in depth about that, but I haven't personally heard anyone say something in that way before, especially someone who's asexual as well. I haven't heard anyone like think about the other person in that respect, and like they're doing it because they just want to see their partner happy. It's a bit like, I guess, when you're in a relationship with someone and they've got a best friend that's not, that's not you, or you're their best friend as well, but they got another best friend, and their partner's fine about them seeing their best friend, even though they might want to see them some, they might think, I'd love to see my partner tonight, but I know they've got a best friend and they need to spend time with them. And so seeing their best friend makes me happy because I know they're happy. It's a bit type of the same principle, isn't it? So, because I have a best friend, and if I get into a relationship, for example, with a guy, some guys they don't like me having other guy, well, they don't like women sometimes having other guy friends, and obviously we're friends and you're a guy, so I wouldn't want to stop speaking to my other friends just because I'm in a relationship with a guy, or seeing my other friends. Do you know what I mean? Because, and if the guy is loving me, then he should want me to see my friends as well and speak to my friends because that makes me happy. So it's kind of the same principle, isn't it? Just in a different scenario.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's really interesting. So
yeah.
I'm fiercely monogamous. I couldn't be doing it because I'd be prone because for me a lot of it is emotional connection, and I have an anxiety, so an anxious attachment style as well. So I would get really anxious if the partner was doing that, and also I just wouldn't like it because I would see that personally as cheating because I come from the mindset of just because I'm asexual doesn't mean to say I don't deserve the same monogamy as anyone else does. And I personally wouldn't want them to be having sex with someone else because that would feel like they're cheating on me. Because to me, it's not acceptable because that's not something I would be happy with in a relationship. Do you know what I mean? I'd rather not be in a relationship ever for the rest of my entire life than be with someone who was having sex with someone else. I'd rather them just say, look, I'm not for you. If you want sex, that's great for you. Go and find someone who'll give you sex. I've said that numerous times on dating sites when I've been in conversations with guys. They're like, oh, but I want sex. I'm like, that's fine. Good luck to you finding the right woman for you because I'm not the right person. Because if you want sex, I can't give you that. So I want you to be with someone who can give you that. It's a bit like I do want them to be happy. So therefore, they should go and find someone who they can have sex with because I know that's totally unacceptable to me because I'm heteroromantic and monogamous, and I don't want to be in a relationship with someone who wants sex. And so I was thinking about having that with other people and would need that from other people. And also because the emotional connection, like, the people that they have sex with, say that I was okay about that, which I'm not, but the people they have sex with, they're going to form an emotional attachment to that person and then maybe want to go off with them and have a monogamous relationship with that person. Then I would lose that person to the sexual person anyway. Do you know what I mean? Because just because I'm not okay, but say I was okay with someone having sex outside the relationship, they're going to form a bond still because sex bonds people. They're going to form a bond with other people, and eventually they'll probably leave anyway, a lot of them, because they'll be like, well, I can get a relationship over here with all the sex I need, and I've actually got emotional connection now with another person. So, because we can't stop the people they have sex with having feelings for them. We can't stop them bonding. We can't stop them falling in love. And because I know sex bonds people in a very visceral way, a lot of the time those people can one of the people that has sex with the other often ends up having strong feelings and they want to be in a relationship with that person. So they could still go off with someone else, if you know what I mean, even if they had you as their primary partner but then had sex on the side, they might fall in love with one of the people they're having sex with and then decide they don't want to be with you anymore because they'd rather be in a relationship where they're just getting all the sex they want. Do you think that's what they might think or not? Or does that not?
I think that's possible. I mean, like I said, I'm kind of naive on the idea, so maybe if I ever did get into a relationship with someone who wanted sex, that I'd change my opinions or whatever, and I'd think like, oh, well, okay, maybe this isn't for me. Then maybe my general idea is that is that you discuss things, you talk things through, if you will. And I say that for a lot of things, but I think I think it's a pretty big important point that people need, not just in their sexuality, but in just in general, if you will. But obviously, we're talking about asexual today, and I think to me, the way I would want it done is to say like okay, let's discuss it, and let's discuss like how we're going to handle this for the relationship and whatnot. And if we're not, if we can't handle this together, then we should break up, kind of thing. Or
Yeah.
if that kind of thing, because we're not in that sense, we're not compatible, if you will. So if you
Yeah.
know, you know what I mean. So obviously, like I think it's best to talk about things as you go through the relationship and stuff, and you know, because like obviously I don't want to like personally I don't want to have like another explosion of stuff, if you will. That makes sense. Like I don't want things to go on and and keep things bottled up to the point where it's like where you're not happy in a relationship, kind of thing, if you will. Like I don't want to like because I don't want to like keep someone from having sex if that's something they enjoy, but uh I also want the friend in that, if you will, if that makes sense as well. So obviously I want to feel like a person, if you will, in that sense, and I want to feel like they're a person too, and they're a friend and whatnot, that kind of thing, if that makes sense. So I think and obviously everyone's different. Some people are going to be able to completely manage that all fine, like it's just second nature to them, and you're going to get other people who will think like, no, I don't want to do that, and then at all, and that's completely fine. It's up to how the people handle it at the end of the day, and as long, I think it, I don't know if this is one way to put it, but as long as at the end of the day everyone is happy, yeah, and there's no explosions at each other happening, kind of thing and whatnot, and you can talk about this and say like okay, maybe I could have done that better, or I feel like this isn't going to work, or say stuff like that, that kind of thing. I think that's probably the best way to handle things is to just talk it out and make sure that everyone is understood and that everyone is happy and everyone kind of gets together as they want, they fit in together as they need, if you will.
A healthy, open communication, especially in a
Yeah,
relationship with another person, like in a romantic relationship or with a heterosexual and asexual, you feel communication is paramount and lots of discussion around feelings and any healthy relationship should have that, shouldn't they?
yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, do you ever experience jealousy? Because obviously, some people couldn't handle that situation because they might feel jealous of the partner having sex with other people. Is jealousy something that you've ever felt in your life, or is that an emotion that you don't usually experience, so that would never enter your head?
I'm not sure about that one. I mean, I'm not jealous that uh, I'm not jealous that I'm asexual, if you will. Like, I'm fine with being asexual. That's completely fine. I'm not, I'm not interested in sex, and that's completely fine with me. I'm completely fine with that. I've come to terms with it, if you will. Um, it's so I'm not. I don't think. So the sex
So
itself
I,
wouldn't
yeah,
bother me, but
right, yeah, because
yeah,
I meant, are you going to be jealous of another guy? For example, if you were with a woman and she was having sex with like five other guys, for example, would you feel jealous about the other guys being able to give her sex when you can't give that to her? Would you get jealous of the guys being in close proximity to her, like being like with her body and chatting to her and texting her and meeting up with her? Would you get jealous of that, thinking this is really unfair? And would you have a jealousy feeling? Or would that not even enter your head? Would you just not be bothered about that person seeing other people?
I don't think it would enter my head. No, I don't think because like I said, I would want them to be happy. So if they want sex from someone, I obviously can't get that to them, but I don't want to tell them no, you can't have sex, kind of thing, if you will. And which I mean, obviously for others it's fine, but for me, like I wouldn't want to take that away from them, if you will. I would want them to be happy in that sense. I guess I would maybe be jealous of the emotional part though, maybe, but I'm not too sure on that because I don't know how that things would go. But depending on how it would all go and whatnot, but I think that's I don't know. That's I've not gone to that stage yet where I could properly say anything of the sort. So
Yeah, I
if
think a lot of this is like through experience, isn't it? Some people have got to experience certain types of relationship, and everyone's different anyway. Everyone's dynamics different with different people. So I think sometimes you can only learn through actually experience what you think you're going to like or be okay with, and then realize either it is okay or it's not, or some of it's okay. I think it's just like for me personally, like when I got into a relationship last year, which didn't end well, it wasn't a healthy relationship in the end, it wasn't good, and I didn't realize I thought the person was very kind and caring, and they turned out not to be valuing honesty and stuff like that I value. But it was interesting because I was doing more physical stuff with him. There was still like limits I had, like don't touch here and don't touch there, but there was more physical stuff I was doing with him that I didn't expect to do with him, or any guy. And so it's only because I was in that relationship with that specific person, I think, that I was able to do more physical stuff. And I think that because I haven't been in a long-term relationship since 2011, for example, it's hard to know if I got into a serious long-term commit relationship exactly everything I would do and not do physically. There might be some sort of grey areas or areas that I might change my mind on and be okay with. I don't want to say I will because I don't want a guy to be listening to this episode and thinking, oh, great, Sandra's going to change her mind and have sex. I'm not talking about having sex, but like I was doing more touching of his body, for example, the guy I was with last year, which I didn't expect to do. I was like, I don't want to see it, but I'm okay doing some touching, right? Which I didn't even expect to do. That's very personal, um, but sometimes I think only when you're in a relationship, especially if you haven't been in one for years, can you actually tell how you're going to be at that time. You can predict how you're going to be, you can think how you're going to be, and you can state your boundaries now on what you think for definite you want in this moment. But things might change because people change and different dynamics affect any relationship, don't they?
yeah, yeah, it is. Like obviously, like this is all a pretty much a prediction for me, if you will. But like maybe I will change my mind in the future, if you will, and think like 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 no, it doesn't bother me at all, or yes, it does bother me. Don't have sex with us, if you will. That kind of thing. But at this point in time, I'd like to think that I'd think yeah, it wouldn't bother me if they were having sex with other people and whatnot and that kind of thing. So I'd like to think that that would be the case for me, and you know, but I wouldn't. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't like hold my breath on that, if you will. I wouldn't say like that's definite, if you will. But I want to say that that's the way I would be with it, if you will.
So, in terms of from your point of view, if you were in that type of relationship where a sexual person was getting their needs met outside the relationship with the sexual needs that they're getting met, would you be open to having more than one asexual partner or another sexual partner again that you're not having sex with? Like, would you personally, for yourself, like more partners in your life that you're having either an asexual relationship with or well, yeah, that you're having an asexual relationship with, but or you're with another sexual person, but you're not having sex with them. Like, would you like more than one partner at once because they're getting their sex elsewhere from multiple people, for example, or maybe they're just having a relationship with one other person that they have sex with, as well as having a relationship with you that that they're experiencing other things, attractions and stuff with, other connections with. Like, what would that be from your point of view? Because I know you said that you don't believe you could have other people, but if you could have more than one person to be in a relationship with you, would you?
Uh, I, to be honest, I haven't really thought about that part. To be honest, I've always just kind of had it in my head that I'd only have the one partner anyway. Whether that's because that's just kind of been integrated into my mind that I'd only have one partner, or because I think I'd be lucky enough to even get one partner, and I wouldn't get another one. I'm not sure, but like I've never really thought about what if Minky gets two or more partners, kind of thing. What happens then? Or what if there's potential for a second partner? I should say, what happens then? I've not really thought that deep into it. Well, way back, and even now, I've not really thought about it. So maybe it's something I might think about. But at this point in time, it's always kind of been one person for Minkey, but don't deny the plus, if you will, if that makes sense.
So when you were in a relationship years ago, were you just in a relationship with the one person? I'm guessing you were. And did you live with them or not? Because I know you said, I think you said in this book, didn't you, that you're open to living with someone, that you could live with someone? Is that right?
I think I said that, yeah. I think I remember reading that bit, but because I remember thinking, like, how am I going to react when that pops up? And I remember thinking, no, I don't want to live with someone now. No, because I would not be. I'm barely comfortable with anyone coming around, if you will. Like, I know obviously, like I have people sometimes come around for like proper stuff, like checking gas or whatever that kind of thing, and that's fine because I know they're here to do a job, and I know what they're not coming here to hang out, if you will. But like I'm barely okay with someone coming here to hang out, if you will, and that's not I'm digging against people. That's just the protection of my own stuff coming into play, if you will, if that makes sense. Because like obviously I want, because like obviously with how stuff has been, I want to protect my stuff and whatnot. But that's uh, but yeah, living with someone, I think that would have to be a hard no these days, to be honest. Um, at least for a good while, because like I said, I'm barely comfortable with people even coming round to hang out, kind of thing. I'm always thinking about like I'd love to play a game together with someone physically here because sometimes I've got some games that you can't do online. You have to do it in person. But barely be comfortable with it. I keep thinking about it, and I'd barely be comfortable with them being around here because yeah. So living with someone when I can barely handle someone hanging out here is probably a hard no for a long while.
Is that because of social anxiety or because you're introverted, or is it for another reason, or both of them?
I think it would be more so to do with just protecting my stuff, if you will, my video game stuff and whatnot, if you will, and that's more to do with what's going on in my life rather than social awkwardness or anything of the sort, if you will. So that's where that comes from.
Very interesting because I'm an extrovert, right? Although I have introverted friends that sometimes go out more than I do. So I'm an extrovert that has introverted tendencies. And my best friend who's introverted, he's really poorly at the moment. I hope he gets better soon. When I'm recording this with you. But uh he has a lot of, well, he doesn't have tons of friends, but he has more friends in person that he can see than I do, and more friends in general close to him. And so he can see like different people. So although he's introvert and he spends a lot of quality time by himself usually, he lives with his mum, and also he's usually every week seeing at least one or two friends, for example. And I'm extrovert and I don't see people that much. And it's quite interesting because he's like, oh, we have different needs because we're different types of people in some ways, but we're very similar in others. And he's an old soul and I'm a really young soul. And so from the point of view of his, he's like, oh, we have different needs. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh, I'm introverted. So, he doesn't need to socialize, but yet he socializes more than I do with people in real life offline. And so it's very interesting. I'm like, yeah, I am extrovert, but I see people less than you do. And he's like, oh yeah, so you do. And so it's quite weird. And I don't actually like people in my home, even though I'm extroverted. I mean, my best friend comes in my home, but it wasn't until I broke my ankle back in 2021 that he started coming into my home because he was helping take care of me and I trust him implicitly. But I wasn't used to that. And I had a female friend for years and she never even went in my home once. And so I don't actually like people in my home. I don't like people turning up when I don't know they're coming because a lot of people live a life where their friends can turn up and relatives whenever they want. I hate that. I like to know when someone's coming, know roughly the time they're coming, or the time they could possibly come from and to, the time window, if you like. And I like to know what's going on and be prepared. Do you know what I mean? And so I don't like someone just dropping around. That's what I found really difficult when I lived with someone in the past. The fact that my ex at the time, like their friends can drop around whenever they feel like. And I think that's a major reason, one of the major reasons why I love living separately. One is because I can't really sleep next to someone very easily, not sustainably. Like I can maybe sleep for a couple of hours next to them, the majority of the time I can't. I need my own bed and my own space, and I get very self-conscious. And then the fact that their relatives or friends or whatever can drop around, like I don't want to, similarly to you wouldn't want someone to stop having sex if they want it. I don't want them to stop seeing their friends or family relations. But if I lived with them and had to put up with that, that wouldn't be healthy for me, really, because I don't like that. It makes me feel really uncomfortable that anyone at any given point in time can come and drop around, because I might be in the shower. I might be in my pajamas, which is quite normal for me to like be in my pajamas a lot of the day. And I tend to prefer like sleeping in like the morning to afternoon and being awake at night. And I'm on a completely different time scale to most people I know in my lifestyle. And so a lot of the time it just doesn't suit me. And since I've moved home, like for 2 months now, I've had workmen in and out of my flat like several days every single week. And it's just like sometimes like I'm seeing them the next day, and like as I'm recording this with you today, I saw the workman yesterday and then again today, and I have to like rearrange my time around them, and I can't do work if they're like in the same room as me or they're drilling and stuff, because and I like to keep my eye on them, to be honest. Like it's a bit of a safety thing, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
I stand there usually watching some of what they do to make sure they do it right. I don't have a clue what they're doing really, because I don't understand what they're doing a lot of the time. But instead of people just like, most people I think would just be getting on with their day. Like when the guy came round to fit a new extractor fan today, I was like stood there watching him. I'm going, oh, I like to watch because I don't really know much about electrics and I like to learn. That's what I told him. But part of it is because I just felt more comfortable overseeing if he's doing it correctly or not, even though I don't know if he's doing it correctly because I'm not an electrician and he is. He's a professional qualified gas safety engineer. But if you know, recently, he was working on the gas boiler, and that literally the electrics exploded, which was shocking. It's a bit like Puff the Magic Dragon, but it's not funny. It like whooshed up. When you hear petrol go up in flames, it was like that. It was quite frightening.
Oh.
Yeah, and carbon
Yeah.
monoxide leaking, because I've got an open plan office, open plan lounge where my office is, which is where I'm talking to you from now. And then I've got the kitchen. It's no door in between. So I could see and hear that happening. And it was really like shocking. Like it could have killed me.
Yeah.
And I'm really thankful to be alive. But
Should have recorded it, get some views off that as a video.
yeah, I wasn't thinking about that. I said to him, shall I evacuate? Because I mean, it could have been a lot worse. It could have like killed me or him.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I see
I
what you
wasn't thinking
mean.
about getting views at that time. No. Um, Definitely not. I didn't even expect it to
Yeah.
happen. But water and electric don't mix, and he'd already a part had come off, and it was all flooded with water. And I'm like, shall I turn the electrics off? And he's like, no. And a couple of minutes later, that's what happened. And I wasn't, surprised that that happened from the point of view of, you don't mix electrics with water. But I was shocked because I didn't expect that to happen, especially when he's a gas safety trained engineer,
Hmm.
approved, and so it was just frightening. It's really frightening because,
Yeah.
lots of people get killed in gas explosions, and I was lucky that that didn't happen. And when it leaks carbon monoxide, that's a killer. The carbon monoxide went off, alarm went off, and he said it's leaked from the gas. And so that's been really frightening. There's been a lot of frightening experiences. Well, that was most frightening here, but there was an actual gas leak as well. That was frightening as
Hmm.
well. So yeah, so it's been quite horrendous here because I've had workmen in and out. Even before I came and lived here, I was having like things that needed to be done. But since I've been in here, like there was another guy and he was in here nearly every day doing stuff in the bathroom. And so I'm not used to that. And it's like having someone in my home is a big deal to me, especially someone I don't know who's a stranger. Having them come really early in the morning when I'm used to being up late at night and having to rearrange my schedule all the time, my time. And my time's not my own because at any given moment, if something goes in the flat, I've then got to work around the schedule of the electrical company, the company that services all the electrical stuff in here, or what I've got to be on their time scale. I can't be on my time scale. So, the guy will phone me up and go, "Oh, are you in now?" Because they haven't got keys to get into my flat either. So I have to be in. And usually I'm in the shower for like an hour, well, 40 minutes at least. Longer because I've got a toe injury often. And so, it's just very stressful for me because I'm having a stranger in my home. I'm having to change my whole schedule around. I'm having people drop in when it's convenient for them, not when it's convenient for me. I say drop in, they do tell me beforehand, but only because they understand me now because I had to have a word with the electrical company owner. And so I need to know roughly when they're coming, even if it's like if it just like, is it going to be after like a certain time? Like, so he usually tells me now it's going to be after, like, for example, 9. It can be any time after 9, but it's going to be after 9, and they'll call me again later when the guy's in the vicinity. So I might not hear for another like hour or whatever, or 2 hours or 3 hours. Then still have to be here waiting for him to come round. And then he could be like, well, a lot of the time he's probably here on average at least half an hour. But one time he was here for 2 hours, and I've had like new meters installed. The guy was supposed to be here 2 hours, he was here 4 hours. And so, you know what I mean? It's just total disruption to my lifestyle. So I don't like people in my home as it is, but I have to have workmen coming out all the time for nearly 2 months. And you can imagine that if you're a person who doesn't like people in their home, especially strangers, and on their time scales when it suits them and having to get up really early, which I don't usually do, you can imagine that it just feels like so chaotic and bedlam, but it has to be done because there's no other way of doing it. Like you say, these people have to come in and get things done, but it's just like it really mucks my whole like kind of like I can't really I was going to say mucks my schedule up, but I can't really put a whole schedule in place because at every given moment something else can go wrong in this flat, which I don't want to say, but that's the way it's been. So it's like if I phone them up, it's like then the guy phones me early in the morning, or then he phones me later on again. Today he phoned me out of the blue because yesterday I didn't expect the parts to come that quickly. So then he phoned me out of the blue going, "Are you ready now?" And I hadn't even had a shower, I had to have it later. So I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine." He's like, "Oh, he can come and do it now and get it done. But if I don't work to their times, then they get a bit like, well, we'll just come when we can then." Do you know what I mean? Because the owner's like, you have to work
Yeah.
to my schedule. So there's not much leeway there. I have to be accommodating to them as much as possible, but at least I have the agreement with them now. They usually have to tell me a rough idea of when they're going to come before. Well, they didn't do that today. They said he goes, "Oh, I usually would phone you earlier. I meant to do that, but I didn't actually do that because usually they give me advance warning and they didn't this time." But as you can imagine, because you're a person who doesn't like people in their home that you don't know either, you can imagine that for me, it's been very difficult having that constantly going on for weeks now.
Yeah.
Like it's like over 2 months. It's very difficult. So we've gone off asexuality there, but I think
Yeah.
I think asexuals can, there's a lot of introverted asexuals, and there are a lot of asexuals that do have social anxiety. And I think some introverted asexuals and people who are socially awkward or socially anxious, I think they might not like people in their own home either. Because, like it can disrupt their pattern and it can disrupt their equilibrium, if you know what I mean. Do you get
Hmm.
that?
I think so, yeah.
So I know we're like coming to an end soon. We've been like talking for nearly 2 hours, haven't we? So
Yeah.
are you okay to continue for a little bit longer?
I can go for about another 20 minutes. Yeah, that's fine.
Brilliant. Okay. So you said in here that sex to you overall disgusts you, and while you can talk about the actual act of it and such puts you off a conversation. Therefore, you wouldn't want to hear about it. I haven't had sex before, but it's one of those things I almost know I wouldn't want like a cactus shoved up my backside. I love that quote. It's one of my
Yeah.
favorite quotes of the whole book. So I'm guessing you still feel that way, do you?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't I can't I I remember one time in college when the topic was brought up. I can't even remember the scenario, but I remember like we had a lesson on sex, and like halfway, like not even halfway through it, probably like a quarter of the way through it at best, I had to leave the room because I just could not handle it. Like I sort of felt feeling like lightheaded or faint, kind of thing, and I just didn't want to discuss it, if you will. Like I just couldn't handle it in my mind, if you will, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. I had to leave the
What
room.
class was this in? Was it physical education, sex education, or what was it?
It must have been something like that. Like I said, I can't remember the context, but it was something along those lines, and I had to leave because fortunately it was one off lesson kind of thing, so it wasn't like a constant thing. It was like one lesson, and I dipped because I just couldn't handle it. But it was just like you know, excuse me. But yeah, it's I had to leave quarter of the way through.
What I was going to say, how did you leave? Did you just walk out, or did you have to excuse yourself and say, "I'm not feeling well. Can I just leave?"
Yeah, I had to excuse myself. Yeah, I said like, look, I'm not liking this lesson, kind of thing.
Good for you. Wow.
Not being able to teach or anything, but like saying like, look, I can't, I don't like this topic. It's putting me off and whatever. I'm feeling lightheaded and sweaty and whatever, because it's just like weird. You know what I mean? It's that kind of level of just weirdness, if you will, for me. It's like it's so kind of taboo in my mind, if you will, that I just don't want to be here and talk about it, if you will. It's it was just really weird for me. Just
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
How old were you then, if you don't mind me asking?
How old was I then? I can't even remember, to be honest, when it was. I can't remember what year it was.
Was it school or college
No, it was
or
college. Yeah,
so in the UK, because you're in the UK, aren't you, like I am, it would be when you're 16 plus, wouldn't it? At least 16.
yeah, at least 16. Yeah.
It's really interesting. So, I'm just thinking if there are any other questions. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. So, um, when I asked you your views on nudity, on porn, masturbation, BDSM, and kink, she said, as long as it doesn't concern me in any way, I don't mind it in other people. I wouldn't generally involve myself in any of these things with other people. So, do you still feel the same way now? Did you want to share anything else or want to keep that private?
I think it's pretty much the same. I couldn't uh really add to that, but it's just it is what it is, I guess.
Okay. And
I going back to that lesson, by the way, real quick. I
yes,
don't even like I said, I don't even remember if when this was in terms of like how old I was. I can't even remember if it was before or after I knew I was asexual. So this might have been before. It probably was afterwards. But it could easily be, like a year or two beforehand. You know.
yeah, because you
Uh,
found out you're asexual when you were 21. You
yeah,
work. So you could have very well like felt that way before without realizing you're asexual. Because that's what I was
yeah,
kind of asking you about earlier. Like, was there any telltale signs when you were younger, before you found out you're asexual, for example, that you might have been asexual looking back on it but didn't realize it? And that
yeah.
would be a
Like
telltale sign, wouldn't it?
it would be if it was before. Yes, that's the thing. I don't remember if it was before or after I
Okay.
figured it out. So if it was afterwards, obviously it wasn't a telltale sign because I already know I'm asexual at that point. But I mean, like, just to put it into perspective, it could have been before I figured out I was asexual, or it could have been afterwards. It's
Okay.
just that kind of thing. That's just how forgotten that moment is for me, if you will, like when it was. But I know it happened. I remember it happening and whatnot. I remember having to leave the room and whatnot.
That's really insightful. So I know we're going to talk about your channel a bit before you go, but I just want to ask you, is there any questions about asexuality that you wished I would have asked you, which I haven't asked you so far, that you want to tell me and answer yourself right now?
I I don't think so. I think this is pretty good as is. I think this is pretty on par. the only thing I regret personally is like not it's not giving more in-depth answers myself beforehand or something along those lines. But obviously now I'm more insightful. I've had 10 years of experience now, basically, of being asexual, so I know more about it. I can answer these better if there's like a if like for example you did like a sequel like a 10 years later asexual perspectives
Yeah.
kind of thing, and you said the same questions, what do you think nowadays as opposed to before 10 years ago, I would probably put in, I would probably have my own, you'd probably make a part two with just my stuff in here, maybe or maybe just have that big of a book if you will, that because I've got so much to add, so much to say and whatnot, so much to
I yeah,
you know
I
what I
have
mean.
yeah, I know what you mean. I have had someone in the past ask me, is there going to be a sequel to Asexual Perspectives? And at that time I said no, not at the moment, but I don't know if it's something I would do in the future or not, because some people have asked me, but I'm like, would people at home be interested in having a sequel? That would be very interesting. So, and I don't know if the sequel would need new answers in there, which might be the case. I've actually got someone who's answered the questions for me because they wanted to, from the Asexual Perspectives book they bought, but they're probably going to go in Diary Confessions book two, but I haven't decided that yet. So, but they talked to me about their answers whilst I was writing Diary Confessions of a Hyperromantic Asexual book two, which I haven't actually finished yet, which is going to be a sequel because Diary Confessions is a series rather than a standalone book, although people can just get the standalone book. So I've actually got their answers to go in the back of that book, and I was gonna like talk about their answers and then say for them to get the Asexual Perspectives book to see other people's perspectives if they haven't got it. But I don't know if I'll do a second one, because I think it'd have to have a mixture of people who were in it in the previous one and then new people, because not everyone who's in the previous book might want to share again, if you know what I mean. Because
Mm.
it was, and there's at least one person that doesn't identify as asexual anymore that's in the Asexual Perspectives book, which can happen. That's real
Yeah.
life. Some people decide that they're not actually asexual, so that person obviously I wouldn't interview again for the book two. But at the moment I've got four other asexual books that I need to get done this year and finished. So, and I've got another one that someone's waiting to be in excitedly that no one knows about yet. And I've been saying for the last 2 years, yes, I'm going to get that one out. So I think it's only fair that I do that one, because that's a book someone's actually waiting to give their answers for to be in. And they keep asking me, asked me last year, are you doing it this year? And I would say yes to last year. So I've really got to get all those out first before I even think about doing a sequel to Asexual Perspectives. And it just depends if
Yeah.
people would want to buy it or not. Like, would they have enough information with the first book, or would they want a second
Mm.
sequel or not? So, I do want to ask you before we move on to your channel. I do want to ask you, like, what advice would you give now, knowing the 10 years experience you have of asexuality, of someone who's new to asexuality? Like, is there any advice you would give to someone about how to navigate asexuality, how to come to terms with being asexual, that type of thing?
Uh, what was it I said earlier? I can't remember. It was something like uh, I can't remember what I said earlier, but I feel like that it stays true. What was it? It was
Stay true to who you are, no matter what people
yeah,
think
yeah,
of.
the whole you're you kind of thing. So it's like it's you're you. If if you're into no one that wave, then if you're asexual, then that's completely fine. That's completely acceptable. If you're into men, as a man, then that's fine. Or women into women, that's completely fine. That's obviously it's asexual, so obviously like, but still you're you. It's fine. It's not, you're not doing anyone a disservice by being you, kind of thing. By being asexual, if you will. So that's totally fine. It's be yourself, kind of thing. You know what I mean? That kind of thing, that kind of level.
Really good advice. So,
Yeah.
Before we move on to talking about your channel, I just wanted to tell everyone, make sure you get a copy of Asexual Perspectives, 47 Asexual Stories, Love, Life and Sex, A Celebration of Bisexual Diversity book. I know Minkey has got his copy, although you can't see it because he's not on camera. But you have got a copy, haven't you?
Yep, copy's right here. Still
Yay!
got the signature that you gave me when we met up in London
Ah,
2018.
you asked me for my signature. That was so lovely. I love that.
Yeah,
And Minkey's story, otherwise known as 5mart2n, is on page 405 of the printed version, and it's chapter 44. So make sure you do get a copy of this Asexual Perspectives book. It's on Amazon, or you can get it from all good bookshops. Like you can get it on the Waterstones website, Barnes and Noble website, Walmart. It was on their website as well, and you can order it if it's not in store. So make sure you get that. So yes. So before we completely wrap up, or as a wrapping up last part, I want to now talk a little bit about your channel. So Minkey does a channel all about gaming, and I know loads of asexuals love gaming. So can you tell us the name of your channel for people who don't know it, and what is it? It's youtube.com at a certain name, I'm guessing.
yeah.
Like what content can you go through? I know you talked about the Let's Play content, so if you could just tell them more a bit about the different types of content, the games, type of games you play on there would be great as well.
Yep. So it's Minkey the 51st. Spell out all the letters. It does the 5mart2n is in there as well, and the at is just Minkey the 51st. Again, spell out in all letters. And yeah, I do let's play content. I do I do plenty of let's play content at the moment. I've been doing right now. I've got a Pokemon Emerald. There's a lot going on. And, play from Pokemon Gen 2. I'm doing plenty of Pokemon at the moment, but I'm also doing Zelda. What Zelda am I doing at the moment? Ocarina of Time, Free Heart Run. That's something that I think is interesting. And my favorite one at the moment that I'm doing is Let's Play on Pokemon Generation 2. Uh, which that one is my favorite. I recommend that one, although I recommend going and checking out the Gen 1 version first if you're interested, because that's kind of like a prequel, if you will. I do other content as well, like I do deck profiles on the Yu-Gi-Oh decks and whatnot, and the like. And I also have a series called Minkey Mondays where I tackle other bits and bobs, other things that don't belong in its own, that don't have a series, if you will, like just are their own standalone videos and such. So that's fun as well. We're on episode 25, I think now. I think I released that yesterday. Well, I say
Congrats.
yesterday. I'm in the sixth, but yeah, I released that recently. So yeah, that's I do guides and stuff. I show stuff off, tips and whatnot, and challenges. So that's the main thing I'm doing at the moment.
You still do glitches because you used to do glitches, didn't you?
Yeah, I show glitch stuff as well. Yeah, that's that kind of thing. Glitches when it's necessary and reasonable and stuff. And I do have more stuff on the horizon, glitches included. So that's
What is a glitch to people who don't know the gaming lingo?
so a glitch is something that's sort of not intended by the game developers of the game, but it's in there that can either benefit you or uh unbenefit you. But usually it's benefit if you know what you're doing.
So like a
Which
trick, like playing
yeah,
a trick.
sort of like a trick. Yeah, it's like kind of that kind of thing. And fortunately, I usually know what I'm doing when it comes to this stuff. So it's very good. It's a lot of fun. It's it's one time on the channel, so I hope to see people there with glitches and whatnot.
Yeah, I'll definitely put your links in the description of this video as well, so people can check you out on your YouTube, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss
Yeah,
Minkey's
yes,
video,
please.
and any links to your social media that you want to include as well. Is there anything else you want to say before we go?
Not that I know of at the moment, and I'll probably regret that in 5 minutes. But that's the Minkey way, I guess.
That's the Minky way. Yay! So 10-year anniversary, what are you doing to celebrate before we go? Like, what are you personally doing to celebrate? Obviously, we've done this this beautiful video here, interview, but what are you doing personally? Are you doing anything on your own or got anything that we could know about that you're celebrating for the
I, I've
10th
I've not
anniversary?
actually thought that far ahead, to be honest.
Yeah, because
Uh,
we're recording this on the 7th, I have to say, of January, even though it's going out on the 15th, aren't we? So
yeah, I usually wait until the last day to figure stuff out like this because I've got I've got another anniversary coming up. Or no, I think it might have gone, but that's I wait till the last day to figure out what to do there. So that's usual with me. Usually, I wait till the last day. So I'll
that's
probably
a
have
big
something up
way.
on the 14th.
Yay! Anyway, thank you so very much, Minky. 5mart2n. Grab a copy of the Asexual Perspectives book. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe to Minky's YouTube channel. Link will be down below in the description. And see
Yep.
you soon on the next video live stream. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, hit the bell icon so you never miss an asexual video, a lifestyle vlog, an education video, an entertainment video. It's all here on Asexualise, my asexual life. Yay!
Yeah.